Do you want to start embroidery, but you're not sure where to begin? In this tutorial, I'm going to take you through 5 easy to learn embroidery stitches that will help you start to upcycle your clothing. The first one I want to show you is a backstitch. So I've just drawn a faint line here with a friction pen. This is denim, but it's just a scrap of denim that I had. So it's even better if you can do this upcycling some existing fabric. I've got some embroidery thread, an embroidery needle. So the only difference between an embroidery needle and a normal sewing needle is that the eye is bigger and the needle is a bit thicker and a bit more sturdy. And it's just got a little knot tied in the bottom. So I'm going to come up from the back of the fabric about 1/2 centimetre away from the start of the line, so about 5 mils away from the start of the line, and then I'm going to go back on myself through the start of the line like that. So that's our first back stitch, and then I'm going to come up again about 5 millimeters ahead of my previous stitch, and then go down at the end of my previous stitch. So that's my 2 back stitches. So you're basically coming up and going back, up and going back. So another 5 mils, 1/2 centimetre, and then I'm going to go back right in front of that stitch that I did before and pull it through to the back. So they're my 3 back stitches, and from the front, from the back, that's what it looks like. So it's going to create a continual line of decorative stitching. So we've just learned how to do the back stitch. The next stitch I want to show you is a satin stitch. So I'm going to try this with a slightly different tone of orange. So the satin stitch is like lots of straight stitches that creates a really satiny texture on the surface of the embroidery. So I'm going to start off by doing a tiny stitch. So I've drawn this kind of petal shape using the friction pen on the denim. So I'm going to come up right next to it with no gaps and then go down, and you want your satin stitches as close to each other as possible, so it's creating almost like a filling texture, so the whole of the shape will be filled in. So that's my first 3 stitches. So we're using it to build up colour and a satiny texture on the surface of the embroidery. So you can see it's just a simple straight stitch, but you can do it in different shapes to create different designs. And it gives kind of a block solid texture, the satin feel. There we go so far. So solid colour or a nice satiny texture. So the satin stitch is completed. So you can see there, it gives a block of colour and a really nice satiny feel. The next one that I want to show you is a chain stitch. So again, I've just drawn a faint line here with my friction pen. So we're going to come up at the start of the line, and then we want to go down through the hole we just made there. So you're going to go down through this hole like that, but not pull it all the way. Leave yourself a little loop like that, and about 1/2 centimetre, 5 mils along. You're going to push your needle through, and then you want to come up through that loop like that, and then as you pull it taut, the loop is going to be caught on that stitch. So let's do a couple more. So I'm going to go down through the hole that I just made from my previous stitch, pull it a little way, but leave a nice big loop. Then I'm going to come up about 1/2 centimetre after that loop, hook my loop over my needle, and then pull up. So down, back down through where I've just come up, pull it to create a loop, and then come up about 1/2 centimetre along, and then push the needle up so you're catching that loop with the needle, and then pull down. This is such a pretty stitch. It gives a really decorative look and a really nice texture to any embroidery that you're doing. So we're coming up and down through the same hole, creating a loop like that, and then we're coming up about 1/2 centimetre down, and then taking the needle through that loop, and then when we pull it, that stitch holds the chain in place. So we've got our back stitch, satin stitch, chain stitch, and our French knot. The last one I'm going to show you, just down here where I've drawn this little flower, is the lazy daisy, and this is going to build on the skills we've just learnt from the chain stitch. So you're going to come up through the centre of your flower, then you're going to go down next to it, not through the same hole but next to it, so about there, to create a loop just like we did with the chain stitch, Then at the tip of the petal, so that's our loop that we've just made, like we did on the chain stitch. Then we're coming up through the top of the petal and we're going to catch the top of that stitch and then pull it down like that, and then go all the way through to the back. If your thread gets caught, you can normally just smooth it out. So up at the base of our petal, then go down next to it to create a loop. And then you're going to come up at the top of the petal. That loop's a bit twisted, so you can just turn the thread like that and hold it to bring the needle through. It does start to twist. Then pull it up. That's our second petal. And then go down to hold the top of that petal in place. So we're doing 2 stitches per petal. So the first one is this loop at the bottom. And then the top one is a tiny stitch just to catch it in place. And because this one's twisting, I'm going to hold it in place, use my needle to catch it like that, and then go down. So that petal hasn't quite pulled through as much as I want, and the stitch at the top looks too big. So I'm just gonna, you can manipulate it from the back to pull it through a bit more. There we go. Sometimes when you get an tangle like this, the best thing to do is just from the back take the stitches out and re-stitch it. There we go. So rather than fussing with it for ages, the best thing is to do is take the stitches out and just re-stitch them, because you can end up ruining the thread and the fabric if you don't. Okay, so back to where we were. Here's our loop. I'm going to hold it, stop it getting twisted. I'm going to come up at the top of the petal and go down. Yeah, that looks better that time. There we go, that's our lazy daisy. Looking very cute.